Hey everyone, welcome to the Airball podcast, now sponsored by House of Handles. Since we last spoke, free agency has officially opened up. So we want to start today's episode by talking about a bit of a recap of what we've seen in week one. We'll start with some of the marquee moves and go a little deeper after that. And we'll finish up the episode as well talking about our biggest winners and losers so far of free agency and putting the microscope on a few teams. So starting and opening the floor, one of the bigger moves that we've seen so far, and that's, I guess, caused some waves in the league so far, is with Clay moving to the Mavericks and a sign and trade, leaving the Warriors high and dry. So I guess opening the floor, fellas, what are our thoughts initially to Clay?
First of all, condolences to David. Rest in peace. The sore throat was caused by probably crying many nights about this whole Clay situation.
David is our resident Warriors fan, and thus he's not here with us.
Since 2012, as you always let you know. Rough. So rough. Pay cut and everything.
Yeah. He obviously took a haircut to leave, because...
So we covered the contract. So it was... Mm-hmm. It was reported, 3 years, 50 mil?
Yep.
Yeah. I originally thought it was 3 years, 50 per year. I was kind of shocked at the number. 50 per year is also shocking, but, I think the Lakers offered 360.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Warriors didn't offer him a contract.
No, they did. They offered him a contract.
2 for 48.
2 for
It
48.
was more than what the Mavs were offering.
Yes.
Yeah.
2 for 48, and he declined that early on. And he thought he was sliding. Yeah, fair. I'll let Daniel. What are your thoughts?
Me, as an anti-Warriors fan, obviously as a Cavs fan, I don't really support the Warriors wholeheartedly, but I think it was a good move by the Mavs. I think watching the Celtics series was so rough because all these open looks would just not go in from the role players on the Mavs side, and it's just what's happening? You guys have killed it in the OKC series, and then what's the Nugget series? Because Josh Green was balling out, and then you reach the finals, you don't make a shot. Having Clay there as a veteran finals performer, as a proven clutch shooter, 3-point expert, having him there would be really helpful for Luka. I think the level of gravity Luka demands is very, very similar to Curry in the sense that everyone's going to crash in on him.
Yeah.
Once he goes into the paint, he flips those behind the head passes. Crazy stuff.
Absolutely. Look, I guess talking about how it affects the Mavs first, I kind of view it a little bit like when Ray Allen went to the Heat, because if you're simply getting that from Clay, I think that's really all you need. If you're viewing, Luka as the LeBron of that team, and then you've got Kyrie as your D-Wade comparison, this is the first time Luka is going to get someone who has a trigger that quickly and can shoot on top of anyone, and obviously has the ability to shoot it at past times in his career, 45%, or a ridiculous, high percentage. That in itself is super, super valuable for the Mavs, and like you said, I think they just lacked, reliable kick-out guys, whereas, Luka depends on that sometimes.
Yeah.
If you've got PJ Washington doing it and, you're kicking it out to Derrick Jones Jr., I don't think you can expect the same thing. Look, I love it for the Mavs. Well, we had some technical difficulties. We're back. We're still talking about Klay Thompson. Kiv, please give your opinion.
I disagree with everything that was said. I think the Warriors are a winner. They're a winner because they get out from the Clay contract and they get to move on to whatever the next stage is. I don't want to talk too much about the Warriors. They're a winner by not having Clay. I know the nostalgia and everything. But now, why I don't think this is a win for the Mavs is two things. They got rid of Derrick Jones Jr. and they got rid of Josh Green, right? You can't exactly say they didn't have the kick-out shooters, they didn't have the shooting ability. They got to the conference finals doing that, right?
Yeah.
Those guys hit it, and look, don't get me wrong, that might have not been their primary role, but they hit their shots, right? What you're discounting at the moment is you got rid of two defensive guys,
100%,
and you're bringing in Clay now and Nazi Marshall, right? Neither can really defend on a team where you have Luka and Kyrie starting, who already can't defend, right? So defensively, you've taken a massive step back, being the Mavs.
Yeah.
The second point that I don't think this is a win for Clay or the Mavs is that if you look at the way Clay plays on the Warriors, it's all off-ball movement. The Mavs don't run that stuff. It's isolation, high pick and roll action, work Luka, dribble the ball, kick to corners.
Yeah.
You talked about the Ray Allen piece. Ray Allen was coming around the same stage, but he accepted that role of I'm just going to stand in the corner and do nothing majority of the time until I get the ball. I just don't see Clay being that player. He moves off the ball a lot. There's a lot of stuff run for him. You know, Draymond's looking at him every single time he come down the court. He might not get a shot up, but he gets the touches. He gets the usage. I just don't see this being the perfect fit for him. I don't even see him in a lot of stages closing out in the last 5 minutes. Because, yes, he's got the shot, but is he your primary wing defender now?
No.
So then who you're running? So you're running another smaller guy with him.
No, you're running PJ, who...
So PJ is your primary wing defender. So if you're going up against a grade 2 guard, so PJ is the guy that's out there guarding that.
Yeah, and he was against Luka.
So he's guarding Shea.
Oh, sorry, not against Luka, sorry, against Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, okay. So he's guarding Ant and Shea. I just don't think PJ is that player. And if you're putting all your eggs in that basket, look, I don't think you're getting very far. Because they're leaning into offense. And I don't think that was the way to go.
I see what you're talking about. Like, you're right. Like, they are losing massive defensive assets.
Yes.
Losing Josh Green, losing Derrick Jones Jr. But I feel like they might have some other plans. Again, this is only week 1 of the offseason. They might have some sort of hidden European talent they have their eyes on. Or even they're waiting for the Olympics to see who's going to turn up.
That's beyond the scope of this. Because they've signed him to be a primary, crucial player.
Okay, here's my counter-argument to that.
Yeah.
I think you're weighing DJJ and Josh Green's defensive impact way too heavily. Because I think Klay Thompson, yes, not as good as a defender as Derrick Jones Jr. might have been, for example. Najee Marshall is sneakily big. He's actually like 6'7" or 6'8", whereas Derrick Jones Jr. was 6'5" with a huge wingspan and a lengthy defender. Najee is stocky with a high 3-point percentage. I'm not going to sit here and vouch for him as a defender because I'm not sitting around watching Najee Marshall highlights. But what I can say is what you are trading in defense, you're giving Luka someone who can shoot 40% with anyone in his face as a kick-out player. Whereas when Derrick Jones Jr. cooled down and Josh Green cooled down, you could tell that the Mavericks were completely different because Derrick Jones Jr. shot 40% in the playoffs up until the finals.
Yeah.
You take that away and the guy's not doing anything, right? Give him Klay Thompson, who's going to be another option, and hopefully healthy, someone who can actually take it off the dribble quite comfortably. We haven't seen that in a while, but
could you not make the same argument for Klay? I mean, is he a consistent bucket? Hasn't been that for a couple of seasons.
I think it's a bit hard to if
you're looking at Klay's playoff record in the last couple of seasons, hasn't been great. Since 2022, it's not been great.
I think he's not expected to have the same role that he did with the Warriors now at this stage in his career.
I think you have to consider, Kid, that the way that the Warriors played might have not been better for Klay at that point of his career. The high movement, the high, all that kind of stuff. He might be better as a corner guy standing there waiting for that Luka kick out with the 3 steps to the side to catch the ball.
I can't agree with that because even at a normal level of basketball, guys that are really good athletic guys that run up and down and shoot a bunch of threes, if they get injured or whatnot, they'll end up transitioning into corner 3 shooters, right? They'll stand there, they'll come. That's an easy step transition, right? If that's something Klay was open to, he would have done that in Golden State.
I don't think. The problem is in Golden State, he was expected to do more.
Yeah,
he was expected to do more because they lost out on ball handlers. As soon as Poole, DiVincenzo were gone, it was okay, Klay's back. We need him to have more usage. His usage went up.
They moved him to the bench, and that's when all the fuss started because he didn't want to come off the bench. He didn't want a limited role. He wanted to be the main guy. I don't think anything was expected of him. Maybe his namesake and ego felt like he needed to be expected of, but they went with young guys, and he still wasn't happy. They started Pajensky above him, and he was cranky.
I think it's more like a loyalty thing. I think he expected more back in terms of loyalty from the organization to let him figure it out. Obviously, we all know in hindsight, it's like, well, you know, you gotta make the move, you gotta make the change as a coach.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't start one of our players on the A squad if they're having a bad rough patch. I expect once he goes to a new organization, at least if he's smart enough to expect a change in his role. You know, like you shouldn't go to a new team and expect the same place to be drawn up for you. You should expect new things to be, you know, written up. Like again, you're going to a team with Kyrie and Luka as your ball handlers.
Clay is a perfect example of someone who needed a fresh start.
Yeah.
Absolutely needed a fresh start. Like obviously things got tarnished at the end of the season, and I agree with you. Like Clay is upset because he saw Draymond get paid and he expected the same thing. Because Draymond, I mean, he really hasn't been the same player that he is.
No.
He got paid. Okay, so Clay, from the loyalty piece, you know, I think he wanted to get paid. We all agree.
He made the right decision. I think he needed to move. He needed to get out of Golden State. What second star on championship teams ever gets the loyalty card?
Yeah.
Everyone, Scottie Pippen's played in a bunch of different teams.
Dwayne Wade.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Right. The second guy normally ends up going. They'll be loyal to the main guy. They'll move on from the second.
Yeah.
It was going to happen.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be a seamless fit as it looks on paper.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's going to be big deficits for the Mavs to now sort of... Like, you said on the days that, you know, Green and Triple J aren't hitting, right? Sorry, DJJ is not hitting. They're still willing defenders. They're athletic willing defenders.
But how good defenders are they? Like how much have you seen Josh Green being a stopper? Like Josh Green's not
But
like
he's
discount it.
Josh Green is throwing his body to the ground. Like, I do see where Kid is coming from. Like, no, Clay's not doing that.
No.
You know, Luka would never do that. Kyrie would never do that.
You can't discount these guys once they've made it to the finals. They've proven it in the playoffs.
But maybe they're trying to
also
make
degree.
room for different guys like Jaden Hardy. Who else? Quentin Grimes got signed.
Grimes is a very
Grimes?
lucky signing.
Yeah.
He can be a Green somewhat replacement.
I've seen him die for loose balls, especially against Curry, against really tough matchups. So
Yeah.
he might be, you know, they might have a plan for him to do that.
He might be a
more.
Dellavedova light.
I can't believe Dellavedova is still
we
on
cannot
the...
draw lines to Grimes and Dellavedova.
Yeah.
Please.
Dude, I just want to say this. I don't know why Dellavedova is still on the Australian Olympics team.
Hey, man, it was
Over Thydrell is beyond me. I don't understand it, but...
MVP a couple seasons ago.
Yeah. Losing title for them sucks, but
Yeah.
okay. So today we found out that DeMar is signing a 3-year 70 to go to the Kings as part of a sign-in trade as well. So as part of the trade, there was a 2030 pick swap. Harrison Barnes got sent to the Spurs, and then Chris Duarte went to the Bulls plus cash plus potentially a second rounder.
I think that was a second rounder.
It was a second rounder there as well. So, look, a few things moving there. A multi-team deal. I guess starting off, let's talk about Sacramento's point of view and DeMar DeRozan going to Sacramento. What are you guys' thoughts about?
I want to hear Kiv's, because Kiv likes it.
Okay. I like this one.
Yeah.
Do I think it's a good fit? Probably not.
Yeah.
He's not a stretch shooter. You got Sabonis on the floor there as well. Keegan Murray's also not really much of a stretch. He can shoot it, but average. He's shooting it all right. I'm not sold on him, but fair enough.
He had a nice 40-point game of hitting like 10 threes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think you're gonna bring
I think it was 13.
Yeah,
I think it was actually like out of this world.
I gotta get his percentages.
He's a good shooter, and he can shoot on the move as well.
He's in the making. He's young.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
Anyway, look, I like this I actually really like this trade from a small market team point of view. It's like no one's rushing out to go play in Sacramento, right? They needed to make a move. They had a great season 2 seasons ago. Teams found out their style and sort of figured them out last season.
Yeah.
Didn't have the best run with health, and they weren't too deep in terms of reliability. This is an upgraded Barnes, who was a big piece 2 years ago.
Barnes, I don't know.
He's like DeMar knows what he can do.
Yeah.
He's not going to play out of it. He probably won't be a great defender. I think he'll be a worse defender than Barnes probably was for them.
Yeah.
But he's a go-to guy. Like, he'll hit a bunch of clutch shots. He did that last year, the year before. Like, you got someone with a bit of reliability in that aspect. You also got, this is fans in seats.
Yeah.
Right? It's good for a team like this. Does this make them better in the West? I don't.
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean now. Like, they do... Yeah, you're right. Like, this is, as a small market, you're getting jersey sales, you're getting, butts into seats.
Yep.
But again, like, if it's not translating to winning, and you might get a replication of, like, last year's playoff performance, like...
But that's an unknown. That's an unknown. Do you think they were getting better? Sorry, can I ask, do you think they were going to be better if they remain the same?
No, definitely not remain the
Absolutely
same.
not.
No, but there were good role players on the free agency board that they could have gone to build that. Look, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I feel like they're better.
I had a look
Thanks,
today.
yeah.
There really wasn't, right?
Really?
Once they signed Monk, they didn't need the KCP, they didn't need the Clays, they didn't need those kind of players, right? They needed a small forward in that spot to upgrade Barnes. You're not going to get rid of Keegan Murray, you're not going to get rid of Sabonis. Fox and Monk are locked up. They needed that small forward wing guy.
But it just doesn't fit.
There's a few reasons why I don't like this.
Yeah.
Okay. The main thing being is the Kings, I think what the perfect fit would have been, and when the rumors first started for this move to potentially happen, when the Raptors were blowing things up and OG was becoming an option.
Yes.
OG, I think, was the perfect player to come fit into this role. Runs fast breaks, plays defense on a team where defense is significantly lacking, and I think was specifically one of their needs, and potentially something they went and addressed in the draft. We're yet to see what Devin Carter's going to do, but potentially something that they think will hopefully patch that hole for them. In saying that, they didn't get OG. They get DeMar DeRozan. Now, two issues I have with DeMar DeRozan. Objectively, DeMar needs the ball in his hands, and he likes to play slow. He likes to play slow, and that's not what the Kings do. When they had that season where they had the record-breaking offense, they played fast. They played quick. They ran fast breaks. Even in their half-court stuff, they're ducking and diving off Sabonis in high post actions. And I just don't see DeMar at this stage in his career changing his play style to cater to that. And you now look at the way DeMar will want to get his points. And I do think DeMar has an ego as well. I think you saw it in San Antonio. You saw it with the Bulls. He has his mentality of, I need to get mine. And in the Kings offense, and I just don't, I don't see that fit. And then defensively as well, they needed to get more defense into their starting lineup.
Yes.
And DeMar doesn't bring that. Okay, he's maybe like a net neutral defender at best. But I think you needed to have a defensive stud and let the rest of the guys go around that. So that's why.
To stick up for the Kings, which I don't think I've ever done in my life. I would say there were teams last season that figured out their offense and did start to slow them down. And that's when their biggest issues started to come out because they don't have a reliable option in the half court once they're not attacking at speed.
Yeah.
They require a lot of movement and guys going downhill to the basket. I can see where he fits in. I know it's not a perfect fit, definitely. But they weren't really a team. Like you said, the OG trade, right? The Knicks sent quickly RJ Barrett and a pick, right? For OG. Like, I don't think you have that package in Sacramento where you're going to send out Monk, you're going to send out Fox, you're going to send out someone with value.
Yeah, I think what really ruined them is I think the Raptors weren't looking for draft equity in return.
Yes.
And
they wanted pieces. They wanted pieces.
And off that Knicks trade, clearly showed that. Because otherwise, it's basically got the draft equity and just go for it. Because I think that is almost the last piece that gets a team that was once a third seed, then a seventh seed. It's potentially one of those moves that gets them to like a second round or conference finals and further.
Yes.
What could have been. But now I think I'm worried about the Kings' trajectory because we looked at that playoff series they had with the Warriors and everyone was like, oh, it's all good. The Kings, they're on the cusp. The Kings will be back.
One asset away. Yeah.
And now, like, their trajectory, in my opinion, is slowly descending, and I don't think this move saves them. So
I fully agree with that.
An aging DeMar DeRozan is not going to help.
But I mean, Kings' mediocrity is where the Kings will be for our entire lifetime. Like, the Kings will have a great season, and then we'll back it up by average to below average to really bad and draft again.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's not what as a front office you shouldn't be repeating the cycle. I just feel like this doesn't really move the needle forwards outside of like more sales. Like you brought up
it's a move, and they needed to make a move, but this is not the ideal move.
Yeah,
and I guess like there's somewhere on paper where I agree they need a punch of offense, but someone who's not going to
Look.
shoot threes is not going to really,
Yeah.
help you in this scenario.
This has also been the free agency period of just defensive wings in high demand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right,
Of course.
There are big prices paid for guys. Like, OG's great, but OG doesn't score a ton, right? Like, he's not a great offense. Like, his corner three is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But, like, he shouldn't... Like, the price tag he's going for these days, the Knicks are paying close to 40 mil for it,
Yeah.
right? He probably would be the highest paid king.
Yeah. I think the Kings actually need a big man. I think they need a big man to
Yeah.
play with Sabonis. But that's not...
I don't think Sabonis plays with a big man. You
I
saw
don't-
the Miles Turner experiment.
I was gonna say, I feel like he plays better with athletic forwards
Yeah.
who just know how to read that what was it, the give and go situation.
Yeah.
Like just the handoff, whatever. Like when you see him play with what's his name again? Kevin Huerter. When Kevin Huerter was able to make shots, unstoppable. Like Kevin Huerter was really good at making that read of when to shoot, when to go, when to just commit to the cut. And if you can find someone who's able to do that, that'll be really good. Maybe DeMar can do that. Maybe DeMar is willing to go on a catch.
No, I don't think so. Denal's right. He won't change.
Yeah.
And I don't look ceiling. I'm saying 7th this year.
Yeah.
In a loaded West. I
Okay.
just again like it's the poison of being in a certain conference, right? If they were in the East and they made a move like this, we're talking top 5.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
Right. In the West, you make a move like this. Now you're talking top 10, top 11.
Yeah, easily play in. Might be scraping by a little bit. Like,
I wouldn't even say easily play in. Like
Yeah.
I think it'll be very interesting to see in the first 20 games how this works.
Very
And
much.
if it goes poorly, I would see the Kings pressing the panic button pretty early,
Pretty
quickly,
Yeah.
and probably copping a fair bit of flack for it.
I mean, look, I'm
Yeah,
not going
we'll
to be
see.
tuning in.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
I want to watch this now. Like, I want to watch Kings now.
I really hope Mike Brown has a direction with.
Mike Brown's coach.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Yeah, he's not. He
Yeah.
hasn't
I
really
like
been
Mike
great, but
you don't
he's
like Mike
proven. He's proven lots of improvement since his last coaching job.
I mean,
Like since Cleveland days to
Yeah,
the
he's
Kings days. There's a
copy-
lot of improvement, but
copy and paste Steve Kerr's systems and sure.
Yeah.
you hope he's let a thing or two.
Well, he had a historic offense, so
That's true.
I'll give him some credit. All right, to the flip side of this, so the Bulls move off DeMar, they get some pieces back, and the Spurs get Harrison Barnes. Do we have any thoughts about the other teams in this trade?
love it.
Definitely. Spurs doing a massive favour.
Yeah.
Something I said last week, but they're bringing in the vets now. They're bringing in the vets.
Did you record it about
I-
Chris Paul going to the Spurs too?
We did. Look, I never disagreed about bringing in vets.
There's
What
reading that
all
down
I
right
said, is just take the extra draft pick and use it.
They
Because
did. They got 2 extra draft picks. All right, they're 12-year-olds at the moment, but they're growing into athletes.
okay,
All right, they took 2 draft picks and brought 3 vets. I love it. Spurs doing good by Wemby.
I'm really happy of the Harrison Barnes trade for.
Me too.
Yeah, look, I think it fits. Great system player.
yeah, a very good locker room guy by
Yeah.
all accounts.
Yep.
Solid, just dependable guy.
Yeah.
And you can probably now just start to move off Kelvin Johnson.
Yeah,
Because, man, he's horrible to play with.
find some suitors.
Yeah,
Find some
just
suitors for
anyone.
him. Yeah, send him to the Hornets.
There are some second-round picks coming your way for Kelvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
We can quickly tell that into the CP3 thing to the
Yes.
Spurs. We
Yeah.
somehow spoke it into existence
Yeah,
last
we
week,
did.
but
A move that we all love.
Yeah.
Like, no
It is-
disagreements.
I don't think there's anyone who can say it was a bad move.
No.
Like, even if CP plays only half the games, it's so huge for the
Totally.
development of Wemby, Castle,
Yeah.
Trey Jones, all those kind of guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just-
it was a good prediction last week.
CP is one of those guys that just changes the direction of your entire franchise.
Yeah,
Like-
did you see the screenshot of first year CP3 in all the franchises?
Every single franchise.
Win percentage like double.
And the thing is, when it happens, it's obvious. Like even if you never look at the numbers, like you look at when Chris Paul has moved to a team, and you're like, holy moly, this team is so much better.
Oh my god, look at the OKC CP3.
Literally.
The way he flipped that team, we all wrote them off. We were like, oh, this is a joke. Like,
Yeah.
and he just puts them into the playoffs.
It had like a 0.4 percentage of chance.
every season,
to
every
make-
first season that with a new club, he has improved him tenfold.
Yeah.
Like, perfect. Again, this was literally the player I dreamt of going.
Teaming up. with
I
them, yeah.
love now the implications on Castle, on Wemby. Perfect. again, back to the DeMar thing, I think this was also... The Spurs did them a favour. There was no need for them to get involved. I don't think the Kings are able to do this trade unless someone took... Because the Bulls didn't want to take any long-term contracts back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all the second apron stuff. That's the reason why all these second-round picks are going and all these sign and trades are happening. But from the Bulls' point of view, I mean...
Yeah, I mean, they get... I think that the positive that I saw from the Bulls is the change in direction is it might be happening. I don't want to get my hopes up like too far because Zach LaVine is still on the roster.
Yeah.
But I can say that Zach LaVine at least, the only silver lining with Zach LaVine is he's a little bit younger than, DeMar and the rest of the core. A little bit younger. But at least if the team is going younger with, Giddey signing Pat Williams for...
Again, I don't know. Why did they do that?
There's some real Pat Will lovers out there.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
I don't think any of us are.
There are teams where you kind of just have to scratch your head and go, who are you competing against?
Yeah.
I'm sure there are suitors that we might not hear of, but man, that much money for Pat Will.
It's crazy.
Look, at least it's a young guy, right direction. Fair enough.
I think he's 22.
The problem with the Bulls is just that, in the East, there's a good chance with this current roster, they could still get to the same spot. They're still in the mid-tier of the East. They're not going to be bad. This roster's not bad enough to be bottom 4.
No.
Right?
No, easily, yeah.
They're semi-rebuild.
Yeah, Giddey and LaVine are going to win you a fair amount of games.
And you got Lonzo coming back with what... I don't know what kind of role he will have, but, what kind of impact he will have.
I don't know what Lonzo would do.
I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what happens.
They still have Vooch as well.
They got Vooch.
This is... Yeah. They're going in a direction.
They're going in... They have a direction.
We don't know.
Yeah, Chris Duarte, some weird college legend.
He's good.
Good scoring
He's
season.
good.
Yeah.
For Puerto Rico, he scored 27 points.
Really?
Yeah. Balled out, hit a bunch of threes. Anyway, okay, moving on. The last kind of marquee move that we've seen so far, probably the biggest free agent that was out there, the biggest fish, Paul George. He heads to the Sixers and leaves the Clippers high and dry. Look, I'll open the floor. If you guys want to start with the Clippers side first or the Sixers side, what are your thoughts?
I'll go on the Sixers. Obviously, great move. Just the Paul George signing alone, it was a deal that the Sixers had to make. They were the only team with that much cap space. Daryl Morey knew that he's still... Daryl Morey is probably the only one in the NBA that's still doing the big three setup. I don't think this is going to age that well.
No.
Because now they're a second apron team. They have the depth at the moment, but if these guys don't pan out, that we'll touch on soon, they don't have the ability to sign anyone. Second apron ramifications takes them out of a lot of things. It's going to be hard to trade, etc. And PG's contract, I understand to a certain degree why the Clippers didn't give him all those years. It doesn't age well.
Yeah.
But again, probably the best third star you can have on a team.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad. I'm glad you touched on it a little bit there with the apron thing.
Yes.
Because this is the last stand of the process.
Yep.
This is going into the second apron and essentially tying yourself into 3 players means that if this goes wrong, it's blow up season. It's officially the end of the process. Yep. I think Embiid gets unhappy if this goes nowhere. There's going to be a point where if they blow everything up, they potentially keep Maxey and they're going from here. That all aside, I personally really like the move for the Sixers. I think PG is probably one of the best plug into their and giving them a 3-and-D option, which obviously PG is far more than just a 3-and-D option. He's a guy who creates his own, but PG is a special player, and I think he needs other good players around him to get the most out of what he can do. I think he's not the type of player that you would carry your franchise around, but if you give him a star big man like Embiid, who if he figures out how to show up in the playoffs, and you give him Maxey, who if you're kicking it out to him, he's going 300 Ks an hour to the ring. I'm excited to see what their offense will look like, and I trust Nick Nurse a lot. I love him as a coach. So for him, figuring out the big personalities and making it all work, I think it's a good move by the Sixers. I think they had to do this.
I think it was a really good win now move. Like to make that hard playoff push to win the East and to potentially compete with the West. But I'm just worried about the availability of PG and NB. You're signing a very injury prone star next to a hyper injury prone star. Like NB's turning 30. Like he's not getting any younger. Injuries are only gonna get more frequent as he ages. Like you're gonna have those stretches again, like last season, of just Tyrese Maxey being the guy who has to do everything for the team. Like Kelly Oubre is not gonna get any better of a role. He's not gonna get any better than he is. You're losing good shooters too. You're losing Buddy Hield. So I don't know how that helped.
Can you throw Buddy in the good shooter category? He was horrible.
Horrible this season, but a career like 40%.
I agree.
As an aside, I hate how the Sixers used him last year. They used him terribly, which was very surprising to me. But
yeah. Like I love Nick Nurse too. Like I was surprised by that. I had him on my fantasy team. Just really first week was great. The rest of the season just horrendous. Yeah. But I don't know. Like I do think it's a good win now move with our roster now. But I'm just worried about availability.
This is going to be an amazing first season.
Yeah.
First season is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
We haven't touched on the other signings.
Yeah.
But they did make a number of good signings for this year. This, to me, feels like the Lakers at the start of the season when they sign a bunch of new guys. You read the name, you're like, all right, cool, this guy, like Caleb Martin, he come in, he can do a bit of this, he can do a bit of that, he can run the floor. You run through the names, you're like, okay, there's some potential.
Yeah.
But then the season starts and you're like, oh, okay, I get why they signed for X amount under the market value. And like, that's the kind of guys that they have. If they click, maybe they have a good 6-7 man rotation. But at the moment, like, for me, they're still fourth in the East.
Yeah. Let's just quickly touch on the signings that happened, because we alluded to it and there's no point coming back to it later. Look, they obviously extend Maxey on a max. Yeah. They bring back Oubre. They sign Eric Gordon. They get Andre Drummond. And just today, Caleb Martin agreeing on a deal that we don't know the size of yet, but he's there as well.
Sorry, I actually love the Andre Drummond signing. I think it's so good for Embiid to really try to alleviate the amount of work he has to do on both sides. Not both sides, only on the defensive side of the court.
But they'll never play together. They won't play a single minute together.
But at least he gets less minutes on the court, which will be helpful in the long term.
I don't think that's the reason. I think it's purely same reason why Drummond was there 3 seasons ago. Whenever he's injured, Drummond is probably the permanent best backup big you can get. We love him in fantasy.
Might be a good fantasy pickup this year.
The moment he goes down, he's double.
Yeah.
Right? Like they couldn't even play Paul Reed.
That's the issue. I think that the issue was that Paul Reed wasn't a good enough backup.
No, exactly. Again, we love these. Like it seems very much similar signing to the Lakers signing Hayes last year. A backup big, not as good. It's not a backup big, Anthony Davis. Like for like, he's a light version. He can come in and do something similar. Couldn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So a few of these guys are journeymen.
Yes.
I like Eric Gordon. I think he can be a spark of offense. Look, Caleb Martin is interesting. Like he obviously got very hot in the run where the Heat went to the finals. He got extremely piping hot. And if he can be anything sort of near that, like I think he's an impactful player. Nick Batum was really good for them in the playoffs. And I think you kind of need someone who's like that. Like obviously you have Paul George. But
Batum is solid. I think Batum might even be in the starting 5, right?
Batum's off the team. Batum's on the court.
Right.
Yeah. But Martin can potentially be that sort of style of player. Nick Batum is a good catch and shoot player. But yeah, I think getting Martin for them was really good.
It was. Yeah, I was actually really happy with it. Yeah. But
Vincent also had a stellar hot run.
I was gonna say, I
got
think
a big contract and then went.
I think Sixers fans, because I looked at a lot of Sixers sources to get this, like my notes, a bit too overjoyous about the Caleb Martin signing. We have history about Gabe Vincent coming off his Heat run, not playing well. Max Strus having a below average shooting season, and a team that is better constructed for his shooting. We can't shit on it too much. We can't shit on it too much. Like again, we can't, but we also can't be overestimate what Caleb Martin brings to the table.
Mm.
The heat culture and everything. You don't know how much that actually does play into the intensity that a player is ready to get inserted into. In terms of like being at the end of the bench and coming up and stepping up.
Just quickly on the PG side of things, does he accept the third starter role?
I don't think so.
I think he's the second option.
Yeah, I think he's
Maxi is the third.
I think Maxi's the third.
Oh, that's when you're not winning games.
But I think Maxi is willing to do that because of his playmaking. I think he can be more of the table setter, whereas PG is, and I think PG's role on the team will to be more of a ISO scorer. Like the problem with the Sixers that I had is they just didn't have go get me a bucket. Like get me a bucket. Like we need a bucket right now. Like you couldn't trust Maxi enough to do that because his creation off the dribble, although it's good and his ability to get to the ring is amazing, I think his isolation scoring is not there, and Embiid in big moments is, who knows? Like,
I think he's gassed all the time. Embiid in big moments. I see his fourth quarter stuff, and it's just like, yeah, like the guy has to spend the whole game like getting beat up by triple teams and like getting not targeted on defense, but he's making really tough, aggressive plays on defense to make sure he's stopping the easy shots.
He chooses to do that.
He doesn't want it.
And that's why
Want
he
it.
struggles in the fourth. And Maxi, I think, just lacks size to actually, play the isolation part. So like, yeah, definitely, agree with you that
again. I don't know. I don't see, like looks like a great fit on paper, but there's gonna be some butting egos and your turn, my turn kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think in the beginning it will look like that.
Yeah.
I hope by the end they can.
But I don't think any of them are selfish players. So
No.
that's why I think it can potentially work. Anyway, we can move on from that. We went in depth on the Sixers.
Yeah.
Getting into some of the smaller moves away from marquee stuff. KCP leaving the Nuggets. The Nuggets, I guess, not having the gunpowder to keep KCP happy with the contract. The Magic swoop in and sign him up. What are our thoughts?
I think it's
Just quickly on that.
just massive for Orlando.
Yeah.
They came in with about 50 mil in cap space. Most years they come in with that cap space and they leave with probably the worst fit or the worst player for big money.
Yeah.
Glad they signed him. They need shooting. We talked about PG going to the Sixers. These two teams are probably going to be neck and neck next season.
Yeah,
You know.
definitely. Like
I don't see a big difference in the two. Right, I think Orlando's deeper. Obviously, star power with Philly if they stay healthy. But I mean, Orlando's in that 4 to 6 range.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
they're going to be fighting. They've got wing depth. I love the shooting angle here. They're missing a point guard. I think.
I think they want Anthony Black to step up more, maybe. Like, I think they're making room for it. 'Cause I think Markel Fultz left on the.
He hasn't been re-signed.
He hasn't been re-signed yet. Okay, yeah.
But too early for him. They needed a point guard. I would love to see V3 angle there as well. But
What about
KCP.
Yeah.
going there.
What do we think about it from the Nuggets angle as well?
Devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. You lose another
Yeah.
crucial role player that was like foundational to your first playoff run.
Yeah.
Like a guy who knows how to play off Jokic, who knows how to trust Jokic. You're gonna have to sign up someone, or maybe get someone from internally.
I don't
step
think
up.
I don't think they're going to be signing anyone. I think once they went all in on Michael Porter Jr., I think they knew it was just whatever draft pick we get, we got to put him into those spots that are exiting. So Bruce Brown, KCP now. So now it'll be all Christian Braun,
Yeah.
Watson.
Yeah, what's
You're hoping some of these guys step up, and they're like, look, the second apron was designed to stop this, right? You're gonna have 3 players, maybe 4. After that, it's picky poison. Whoever steps up, steps up.
Yeah, they seem confident about Christian Brown stepping into the role of what KCP was doing. I think the front office had to come out and just try to be confident about that, but they're very clearly not going to be the same. And Jokic loses, a massive kick-out threat, which
Yeah.
I don't think they're getting anywhere else on the roster. Which we'll see. I think there's. Daniel brought this up earlier when we were speaking about the Clay trade, but maybe there's some hidden Europeans that they'll find in the Olympics, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come back with some cheeky Slovenians or Serbians on the roster next year that people haven't heard of. That's my hope.
For Denver, quickly, I feel like this might be the season where they start looking into MPJ trades because, like, let's picture this season out. Christian Braun has a great season. Is he the next guy you then lose? You still don't have the money to sign him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You got four big contracts on the books, no matter what. Murray re-signed for over 200 mil.
Yeah.
As he should, well deserved. But yeah, it's they're in a bit of a
interesting
dwindling
spot.
roster.
Yeah.
They are, They're tied in. I don't know if moving MPJ is the move that they need. Just he sort of surprised me last year with his shot making, and I think that is crucial because his role is to catch and shoot, and if he can catch and shoot over anyone, man, I mean that's hard to find.
He is the player you
in the
need,
NBA.
but he's the contract you need to move.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon, I don't think you can move him.
No, absolutely.
It's going to be one of those things where they see how this season goes, and then they're going to make a quick move, I reckon.
I think they'll make a move. Yeah. I think Calvin Booth is very smart, and he's not going to sit tight because he will know for sure that this roster is not ready to compete with the rest of the West, who got stronger, who we'll definitely talk about very soon. In fact, our next point, which is probably a safe place to move on to the next move that we want to talk about, which was Isaiah Hartenstein going to the Thunder. Yeah. Thoughts, opinions.
Big win for the Thunder. Big win for Hartenstein.
Yeah.
Paid overs.
Got paid.
But it was pretty good contract from what I've heard. 2 years guaranteed with a third-year team option. Yeah, team option.
Yeah. Which is, again, perfectly designed. All the extensions for the young guys come on, I think, at the end of the second year.
Yeah.
So they can sign them and still pick up his team option if he's doing well.
Yeah.
Again, look, I hate the fact that this Thunder team was top 2 in the East, top 2 in the West last year, top 3 in the West last year. Wait, they come first?
They came
second.
The
3 teams
second or
started.
third.
Yeah.
The Wolves were first, right? No, they weren't. They were first.
I don't remember.
Nah, they were top 3.
I think they were first.
They were separated by a game with a game left to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, a team that potent just shored up a wing defender in Caruso.
Yeah.
And a big man that they've been looking for all season.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they stayed patient. They got the perfect guy. Great player. I really rate him. Big wins all around.
Huge, yeah. I love Hartenstein. I think if you looked at Hartenstein 3 years ago and said this guy was going to get paid 3 years, 80 mil or whatever he got, I don't think anyone could have predicted that. He really found his feet in New York, proved that he's a very capable guy on both ends of the floor because his passing is big as well, is really heavily underrated. And I think that's going to be huge with the Thunder's offense because you give them a guy who he's not a negative on offense. Like he's not just
perfect plug and play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can draw up so much for him.
He's a really good player. So to get Caruso, we were going to talk about them as I guess a winner team, but we've talked about it.
Again, for me, they were one of the biggest winners of the offseason so far.
Yeah,
they not many teams go out immediately and just shore up exactly what they want. Bang bang, job done.
Yeah.
Now they're focusing on the season,
and they're deep.
They're deep.
They're deep.
They're very deep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they'd be the favourites right now to be first.
I think they are. I feel like I don't see why, given last season's performance, you wouldn't see what they acquired and be like, oh, you're not going to be first. Like
booking favourites would be them.
100%.
Hey, job done.
Sweet. Yeah. And then the last big thing that we'll be touching in terms of moves separately, Donovan Mitchell. Something near and dear to Daniel's heart here. He re-signs with the Cavaliers after much dubious speculation.
I'm so thrilled.
Daniel, open the floor. What are your thoughts on Mr. Mitch coming back?
I think that it's a good move given that we've changed the coaching staff. I hope that there is something that could be done. I'm not sure how this will affect our long-term, trajectory in terms of who we can sign and who we can move to get more money. We are coming very close to that second apron, aren't we?
Yeah, you would be.
Yeah, because Jarrett Allen, although on a pretty small contract or relatively small contract, is making us push it. And Evan Mobley, I think this is his contract year, I believe. So this is a big year where we will have to move for one of them at the end of the season. I'm honestly not thrilled by it. I think there was a lot of issues with our offense last season, even though Donovan Mitchell is an offensive weapon. There was still glaring issues with how we play with him, and defensively, like we still don't make it work.
Yeah,
and
look, I think you guys needed to re-sign him.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, losing him for nothing.
Losing him for nothing would have been rough. Like we lost so many picks. We gave everything for him.
But the good thing is, and if things go wrong, he's a valuable player in this league. And I don't think that would change. 1 to 2 seasons after this. I think he's still going to be the same scoring punch that he is, and a pretty unbelievable playoff scorer, and a guy you can rely to kind of get you a bucket, which in this league, playoff scorers are guys you can trust in the playoffs to give you a bucket. I think is a pretty good commodity to own. I liked it. Look, I think they needed to make the re-signing happen. I think it's interesting, especially with the coaching changes and all the reports that it was either going to have to be Garland or Mitchell, and that was a decision that was going to have to be made. And one of them was going to be unhappy about that, but that's gotten quite quiet. Maybe that's because of the coaching change. I like Kenny Atkinson.
I think that was coming out of Garland's camp more than anything.
It was coming out more of Garland's camp.
And I think from his point of view, there is no point keeping that narrative going at the moment. No one can really chase him at the moment. Yeah. I think give it the first month of the season, Cleveland being back in probably the same boat as last year, then the noise will start to rise up again. I believe. I was a big, when we started in our second pod, I think I said that the Cavs definitely need to make a trade. Yeah. They can't roll the same roster with 2 guards and 2 5s.
Yeah, it has not worked.
And that's what they've got still on their roster. Yeah. Right. Struce is not the player at the wings. Someone's going to go. I love the fact that they signed him. They had to. Yeah. I think if you lost him or tried to trade him. Yeah. In saying that, small part of me is wondering, again, with Donovan, his whole aim was to go to New York. You could tell once the playoffs started, that window pretty much shut. Yeah. There was no going to New York. The New York was pretty much didn't want him. Yeah. It was another Brunson, another small guard, right? Yeah. His only other option was to go to Philly. Philly had their heart set on PG. I honestly think he's still here just because there's no other options to pay him his money. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts asking for a trade midway through the season.
But he was under contract, so it was
going to be a trade, right? But he could have just declined it if he saw more money coming with a suitor the following summer. Yeah, I don't think he saw the teams that he wanted, and I think he's just going to stay quiet on back with Cleveland, love Cleveland. It's great.
It is a short contract too. I think it's 3 years.
Yes,
3 years.
With a 3 year
extension. Player.
Yeah. So he can
move whenever.
Yeah.
Do we trust Kenny Atkinson?
No.
Look, anything is better than JB. I feel like I always have high hopes for a coach that comes back after a little short hiatus. So I don't know. I just want to see something different from the coaching standpoint, because for me, the whole issue with our playoff run is the fact that the coach doesn't know what to do. The coach is struggling to figure out the other team's, shortcomings, doing well, and we just every single playoff game we're just doing the same thing over and over again. It's rough.
You have a broken roster. It's
not a great roster.
I don't think the coach could have done anything. I'm sorry,
but I feel like I hope we can sign someone on that wing who's a better defender to cover up Mitchell and Garland's issues, and slightly better on the offensive side than Okoro, like a 3-and-D guy would be amazing. But again, those are hot commodities right now. Like, they're not cheap. You have to get some random talent from the summer league to do that.
Everything you said is correct. Yeah. I would just say, just to touch on the Cleveland thing quickly, I don't think they know who they want to keep and who they want to get rid of. I think that's the big problem. Yeah, they don't know if they want Donovan or Garland. They don't know if they want Allen or Mobley. Yeah. I think those answers are pretty easy, but they haven't decided. And you're going to be in this boat for probably
a long time. Yeah. I won't be surprised about it in it until the end of the Donovan Mitchell contract. Or maybe it might be until next season. Next season we will have to move one of them.
I think if things go wrong to start with right here, I think a move comes.
Yeah, well, the mid tier in the East is stacked. From 4th down to probably 10th could be a matter of a game or two.
I think Cleveland will very easily be in the playoff run, like a 5 to 6 spot, very easily, because the team hasn't changed much and the East hasn't gotten significantly better in that mid-tier spot.
But the mid tier's it's pretty congested. Like you got teams, man. Like so, to me there's 3 top teams in the East.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it's pretty much. I think Boston, New York, Philly, in your top 3. Milwaukee just on the cusp of that, depending on health. You got Orlando. Pacers are going to be there for sure, and some of these bottom teams I feel like will make a jump.
Yeah.
Right. I can't tell you off the top who I think would.
Yeah. But
I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of them make a jump. Right. There's a bit of a logjam in the middle. That's the way I see it.
I completely forgot about the Pacers. The Pacers is a team that I am keen to look.
So Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana, I would say locked into the same couple of slots.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
We'll see as the season progresses. Okay, moving into our last segment for the day. Some of our off-season winners and losers. So
I think more focus on the losers. We talked about a lot of winners.
we talked about some of the winners. Does anyone want to talk about any of their winners that they have that we haven't touched on? Dan, you have the Hornets in there. Do you care to explain a little bit there?
Okay, I think there is a lot more with the off-season moves. There's a clearer direction of where they're moving towards. Mm-hmm. I think. I'm gonna say right now, Miles Bridges for 3 years, 75 mil, was a good move. It was a good signing.
Worth the money.
I know Kid brought up a good point outside of the pod that who else wants this guy, but I still think that's pretty good money for what you're getting. Someone who was pushing that all-star caliber before his incident. I mean, can't say it because we'll get demonetized. Yeah. If we're even monetized. But Josh Green and Reggie Jackson, I like those signings. Good. Mm. Reggie Jackson's a good vet. He's a good floor spacer. Like, it might work really well when LaMelo is out, which is the main thing I was thinking about when I saw him. Josh Green, savvy wing defender, might have more opportunity as a scorer. I don't know. I don't really follow Josh Green very much, but I do like those 2 additions. Waving batons, McGowens and Pokusevsky, I think was good. They don't add anything to your roster. And again, that's why I'm saying there's clearer direction with where they're going now. Just getting those players out. Yeah.
Well, Pokusevsky, he's probably out of the league now.
Yeah.
What could have been a true unicorn?
He was up there. He was being told.
But if Kevin Porter Jr. can get back into the league, I think we can throw a contract at Miles Bridges. Look, his off the court stuff, obviously, it should be condemned. But in saying, looking at it from a pure basketball perspective, the guy played well when he came back. He is deserving of the money as a basketball player who's going to contribute to what you're trying to do. Yep. Look, I think it was important for Charlotte to get something. Losing him would suck because the team sucked while he was gone.
Yes.
And they still suck now.
Yes.
But
a little bit less.
They get Josh Green, who, yes, young, probably fits, their timeline. They can use him and he can develop there. And Reggie Jackson, experienced guard, someone who probably brings a more of a level head when it comes to running offense,
especially when you're playing next to guys like Trey Man, just buckets. You need someone to help set him up, control the tempo.
Definitely. I don't think they're a winner of the off season. I think they did good moves. I think they did the best. They were the best franchise in the bottom 4 in the East. They did some moves because the rest of them just continues to tank. Yeah, right. So they clearly want to be playing or above. Yeah. And again, I could see that. A bit of health goes their way. LaMelo actually plays the season.
Dude,
they could jump into that. I can see it. I can see it. But I don't think they're a huge winner. I think they did solid.
They did solid. They did good. Yeah. Thumbs up, Charlotte.
Thumbs up. Good job.
You're still a poverty franchise, but
you're a winner in my heart. No one else's. That's mine.
The other winner that I wanted to talk about was maybe one that people won't view as a winner, but I looked at their moves and I was just slightly surprised. I was like, okay, this makes sense for what they needed. I'm pretty happy with what Detroit have done. So they obviously went out and they signed Tobias Harris. He goes back to Detroit.
This is so funny.
There are a lot of Tobias Harris non-fans out there, but I think what Detroit needed was a wing who's dependable, and they have the cap space to throw at a player like Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
They bring in Malik Beasley, they bring in Tim Hardaway. Now, both not super notable players and not players that I particularly like, but in terms of just adding kick-out threats,
100%.
which the Pistons, watching them last year was like watching paint dry. Like, it was just awful watching Cade Cunningham basically just try to run through everyone. No one else really give any support and no kick-out options. Look, I'm pleasantly surprised that Tim Hardaway and Beasley are willing shooters who, you throw a ball out to them. They can hit it at
the launch
34%.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. They at least Beasley's at 40%. But also just streaky, super streaky. But both of them streaky. But at least like those three players, I like them.
No,
I like them. I like them.
No, okay. Like,
I can get on board with the Hornets one, but I can't get on board with this one. They signed 3 of the worst shooting guys in the league. They are horrible. Beasley couldn't make it on 2 teams that were trying to compete in the last 2 years. Right? Tobias, they were so thankful that there was another team that's willing to sign him, and he could get lost. He was he was doing cardio in the playoffs last year. He was just running up and down, hitting nothing. And Hardaway, bro, they were in the playoffs. They couldn't even give him minutes.
Hey, he scored 12 points. He scored 12 points in 4 minutes.
Yeah,
in the
and
playoffs.
then scored 12 in the rest of any of the series combined. I like the fact that they took the initiative to go get shooters, but they got the shooters that can't shoot.
Look, I agree with you to an extent.
You cannot sit here and tell me a team is a winner and say they got Tobias Harris. Those 2 things don't go on the same sentence.
Nah, well, what were their options? Stay the same?
Yeah, get Cooper Flag. Stay bad. Stay horrible.
No.
Don't pay any of these dumbasses to stay in that.
They have a young core and they need to not win 7 games after 80 games or whatever it was last year where they just were terrible. They got a coach fired. He wasn't doing his job. Whatever. That's a whole different. That's a whole other story.
Too.
But this is what they. I just like it because this is what they needed. Yes, the players aren't great. I admit the players are not great.
Yeah.
Malik Beasley does shoot 40% from 3 though. Tobias Harris has shot 40% from 3 in past seasons. Look, he was a cardio guy last year, but you put him in a different scenario. Maybe he gets a new lease on life. He has to prove something because everyone is now viewing him in this
People
light.
have been clowning him for 5 years now?
5 years. Ever since he got that contract, he's been a clown. But he's getting paid less. He's still got a big contract, but Detroit had to pay someone. And look, these are players that they needed. You can't admit that they didn't need this.
They needed guys like that. Look, this is the difference between a good franchise that's bad adding vets and a bad franchise that's bad adding vets. The Spurs went out and added guys that improved the locker room. Non-ego guys that'll help the rest of them. Mm-hmm. The Pistons went out and got ego guys that are probably going to try shoot way above their means to get a big contract anywhere else outside of Detroit. These are not good locker room guys. These are not guys that are going to help that team in any way.
Tobias Harris is a good locker room guy. Anyway, continue.
He's the only good locker room guy in that roster.
He was a good locker room guy in the Clippers because they all loved him. After that, it's not been...
Tim Hardaway is a terrible locker room guy.
100%.
That's probably who you're pointing the finger at.
He's the main guy. I saw him in New York and he just he wanted to do his own thing. Beasley also doesn't have the best credit for being on a lot of good teams. He hasn't performed. He hasn't showed out. You could argue someone like Malik Monk had a bad season, backed it up, got better.
Yeah.
But he's just the only one that just keeps going down every team.
I don't know, he was pretty valuable in the Bucks, wasn't he? As a pure shooter.
Tried to bring him back.
Didn't? No. Yeah, I know they didn't try, but in that season
he wasn't great. He was great early. Got one.
Yeah.
Okay, look, they're winners in theory. They tried, but
I think for
that kid trying to run.
Look, I think having understanding that this is the Pistons and they're not a good franchise, front office and on the court, this is a winning off season because they attempted to resolve what was missing last season. I get where you're coming from, Denal, where yes, they didn't have shooters. The offense looked disgusting with it, and they added potentially 3 shooters.
I'll be floored this season if JB decides to bench Ivy for any of these 3 guys.
Ivy
Which
sucks.
probably will
We can
end up
continue
happening.
from that. Ivy sucks. We can continue. Anyway, moving on to some of the losers.
I got heaps.
So we got a couple losers here. Kiv, if you want to start, you've got the Clippers in there.
I do have the Clippers in there. I'm kind of confused with the Clippers. They're a loser for me because the direction they were always going was the new stadium's coming. We're gonna have all of our stars. We're gonna keep pushing this envelope. Like they knew they weren't really gonna win a championship, but they wanted to keep that core. They wanted to keep pushing. I don't understand. Like essentially, yes, PG signed in Philly, but this was really just a trade to get Harden. That's kind of just what happened. They locked up Harden 2 for 30, 2 for 70. They lost PG because they didn't want to give him an extra year. This team is arguably now worse. They're going downhill again. Like, I'm just confused in the direction. Like, because they wanted to keep competing. Why would you let him go for nothing? If you knew that he was going to move on or you didn't want to give him that contract, why not trade him? Why not try to do something? This roster to me looks really unappealing to even watch. Right? What do we got here? A few games of Kawhi this season, and then Harden back in the last year of Houston Harden. Yeah, where he was just ISO, and I don't know if Russell's still on this team. To me, like I don't know the direction. In a loaded West, I see them being right in the middle, bottom of the middle. It's just kind of a disappointment. I understand the Lakers, so the Clippers era did not pan out the way they wanted it. I would have just gone. I would have just kept going with that sinking ship. I would have just gone the 4 years, let him play it out, or trade Paul George after a year. He still has value.
They had already run this experiment for fire. They had run it into the ground. I think losing PG for nothing sucks. Like that's obviously like the
quickly. I didn't even touch on the trade. Right, like they've still got more. This trade, if it was Shea and Jalen Williams for Paul George, that seems like an overpay.
Yeah.
We still don't even know what the next 2 picks are, and now they're going downhill.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Like,
I think the Clippers saw that teams that had their 2-headed monster was basically the way that the league was heading. It's having your 2 stars instead of having the 3 entering the apron and sucking. Look, they're going to be an apron team anyway because they have an expensive expensive lineup anyway. I don't think they'll be second apron, but I think that's probably what they were trying to avoid because if they sign PG for $212 or whatever if they could even offer that, and they weren't willing to do that just to run it back because I think the formula had proven itself over the last 4 to 5 years that it wasn't going to work. Look, their next season is going to have to just bank on Kawhi health, which is probably one of the worst things to bank on.
It's so sad, man. Like that guy's such an insane player. Just to see him constantly get injured every time he starts to get back in the groove of it, man.
Well, if I was the Clippers, I'd hate the fact that he's on the Olympic team.
I was actually just thinking about that because all the Olympic content started coming out on Instagram. I was like, why is he on the Olympic team? Like he is the most unreliable player. I get you want his defensive prowess on it, but you have a bunch of other guys who can do it and younger and probably more willing to sacrifice their body.
I'm surprised his camp wanted him to do that because Kawhi is the guy who
normally
declines.
But again, I think that speaks volume of how he sees the Clippers season coming up. He's not interested. He's not interested in preserving his body for this season. He doesn't care. And I think that's a really bad sign for a team that still has 2 more draft picks unprotected to OKC. Because it's just going to get worse. That's why I think they're a loser. I think they could have done something more. I hate when they give up a star for nothing.
Yeah.
Especially one that you paid probably the biggest haul in NBA history for.
Yeah.
One of the biggest,
one loser I wanted to mention is the Grizzlies. Mostly just because the Grizzlies, I don't think are a team that have the runway now to sit around and not really do much. So they've not made a move so far in free agency, and I think they still need to replace much of what they lost with Dylan Brooks, or even having a more of a kick-out 3-point threat. Luke Kennard is okay. I just don't think. I just think that they're pieces away from it, and without throwing darts at the dartboard, don't think they're going to get better significantly. So there's an arms race going on in the West. To see them make no moves, I count that as a bit of a loss.
I think I know at the beginning of the pod, before we started filming, I said they weren't. They had a proven formula that worked. 2 seasons ago in a very much unstacked West compared to now. I do think, now that you brought up what you've said and what we've said at the beginning, that they should have made some sort of move to fill up that missing spot, which is as a spot-up shooter. I wonder if maybe they're planning to get Jaren Jackson to do that with Zach Edey coming in. I hope not. It's not great. But yeah, I guess we just have to wait and see. Kind of gotta hope that just because it's the first week of the free agency that they're waiting on some sort of, someone to pop up.
Yeah, there might be a team that's also looking to make moves once they see what they've got. Once they see they haven't really had a full roster in a long time, So, and they've had interruptions to a lot of their seasons. I know that our resident Zach Edey hater is dying to say something.
I'm not going to even touch on Zach Edey. He's not even a factor. He's not going to make the team any better.
Okay, so, but flame the Grizzlies. Off you go.
It's not. I don't think they could have done a lot of moves in the offseason to be better. One, they're at 175 million on the payroll for next season. They're in the apron. They're not the second apron, but they're in there, right? So moves are a little tough, and their most tradable asset, you'd probably think, is Marcus Smart. Yeah. Right, and he hasn't put any work to show what he is. So honestly, I just believe this team was going to run it back, give Smarts a minute, see if he can perform a little bit, then throw him into a trade mid-season to improve on the area they need. There's just not a whole lot of pieces they could have gone after. They have a pretty deep roster. Yeah. They tried a lot of players last season. I'm sure they want to bring them back and try them with their main guys to see who works. Whether it's a GG, whether it's a Zaire Williams, Santi, they just need a fifth piece to go. They've paid big money for Jard, Desmond, and Jaren Jackson already. They clearly believe Edey will be a center for them. Now you're just looking for one more piece. I don't think they could have done a lot. Purely from where they're at. You're not going to trade the big three that they've got.
Yeah. I don't think it was a matter of making a big trade or doing anything blockbuster, but bringing someone in on a vet minimum or trying to go for someone with a bit more experience, because they have a young roster, and I actually don't think they have many vets on the roster. Derrick Rose, even he might even be a free agent now, but if he's under contract, he's probably the only one with experience there. So maybe bring someone in who's got some experience.
Well, they got two guys over 30, and one of them is 30, and Marcus Smart, and Derrick Rose is 35.
Yeah,
they have a lot of vets.
Yeah,
I agree to a certain degree, but again, they don't. I don't know what the first aid from ramifications are for vet minimums. I don't think there was a guy that they wanted that would fit this.
I don't think seeing the free agents that were available, no one really fit what they had going. No one who,
The only player that I mentioned it before we started recording on the pod, but someone like Nick Batum for me is someone you would want on a team like that. Just because, and Nick Batum is one of those players that could basically fit onto any team. Lengthy, 3, some D, old, vet,
minimum.
Yeah, close to the minimum.
2 for 10 for Nick. So.
Yeah, so that's just for me. The Grizzlies could just get a little closer to the second apron, take on a little bit more risk, but they just need a piece. Nothing crazy. There's still time.
There's still plenty of time. You don't know what kind of player is going to pop off in the Olympics that might intrigue them. Someone from Spain, Argentina.
Those Euros.
Those Euros, man. Like you said, those Euro players, man.
The itches. Bring the itches on. I expect to see at least one more itch on the Nuggets, but
we'll
see. Yeah, we'll see.
There'll be one.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add here? Any other losers we wanna?
I think another loser could definitely be the Heat.
The Heat,
my
yeah,
opinion.
the Heat
Like,
is...
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
keep missing on that one star that you just needed, you know, it's rough.
Mm.
Like, not a single, even like lick of, you know, like rumors in the rumor mill about a star wanting to go there.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, the Heat don't rebuild, and currently they have no assets that interest anyone.
yeah,
Right. I think Jimmy's on his way out by not signing an extension.
yeah,
He's on. This is his last. He picked up his player option. He's gonna run through this last year, and he's gonna be an unrestricted free agent by the end of it. I don't think they can trade him.
yeah,
I think Miami will end up losing Jimmy for next to nothing in the summer. They're an interesting team. They're there for me with the Bucks, where their rosters are sort of win now, and like that's what they're trying to do, and that's what they talk about. But this whole offseason, neither team has made a single move.
yeah,
At least Miami drafted decently
yeah.
with Khalil Ware.
At least Miami develops really well.
Yeah, Milwaukee hasn't done either of those two. So
Yeah,
those two teams for me are definite question marks going into the season. They need moves, both of them.
Yeah, Miami is they're in such an awkward limbo
yeah.
where they don't have the commitment from Jimmy. I guess re-signing Bam is huge. He's obviously an incredibly valuable player in the league on both ends of the floor, and hopefully he extends his game to stretch the floor a bit more, which there are some rumors of. But yeah, they're just not really. They haven't made any moves that kind of make you think, oh, the Heat are getting scarier.
Yeah.
And they're only getting older. Jimmy's only getting older.
And then you resign Kevin Love, like,
Yeah,
nice.
like we're old.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Love was okay for them. And I guess it's a nice re-signing, but
Jimmy's interesting for me because I don't think Jimmy's got long in the NBA left. I don't think he has any interest in the NBA. He doesn't want to be a part of any All-Star games. He doesn't play enough every season to be a part of any award races. He might make the Hall of Fame one day with the least credentials. Because
Yeah.
he never makes any NBA first.
No,
second, or
never,
third, 'cause
yeah.
He never plays enough,
Yeah.
right? Although he is that caliber of a player, and he's been that way. Doesn't make All-Star teams anymore.
Yeah.
But he's so hard. And he took a team to the finals.
He's a damn good player. Like, damn good player.
I think his interests are now outside of basketball. I feel bad for whoever gives him that max deal coming up. Because it's a retirement deal. For sure.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, I just wonder what he's going to do, because I know he's a dog. I know he wants to win. I wonder if he would take a pay cut just to be on a playoff team to help them push it. You know?
I can't see that.
I don't see him going on a super team, but maybe like a, dare I say it, a Cleveland Cavaliers?
I can't see it. I think
Did I say it?
he's going to max out. He's going to max out and he's going to retire. He's just going to coast. I can see that.
I can see him coasting, but the thing about Jimmy is he's just a competitor.
He definitely will play
he's
hard.
just he wants to win,
Yeah.
and I don't think he's going to sacrifice. I actually think he's the type of guy to sacrifice money for winning, when it comes down to it, because he did get paid, and he will hopefully see that. Yeah, I just don't see him taking money to go to somewhere to lose.
Yeah.
Not to lose, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's like... This not the Jimmy that put a team on his back and got them to a finals is now done.
Yeah,
I don't think his
100%.
body's ready for that. I think he's going to go to a mid-market team like DeRozan to Sacramento.
yeah.
I can see Jimmy going to a team like Sacramento.
Yeah.
They probably won't be good enough to compete, but they'll be thereabouts.
Yeah.
That kind of
He
team.
might be able to do something crazy in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're
They're a bit of a... Miami's a bit of a worry.
yeah, definitely.
All right, well, we can wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Good luck to the Heat. Good luck to Jimmy Butler. Figure something out, man.
We'll be back with probably a Olympics-related pod soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
2 plus Olympics.
Wemby's already been balling out at some of these qualifying
Yeah,
things. I
yeah.
don't know if you guys have been watching, but
Just to quickly touch on that, we should probably cover that. Was it Slovenia? Not
Yeah,
qualifying
lockdown.
for
Yeah.
the Olympics?
Yeah, they didn't qualify.
Yeah.
Slovenia.
Yeah,
So
they got
Luka won't be
beaten
there.
by Greece by
Yeah.
30 points.
Wow.
Yeah, but like again, like how are you gonna go up against Greece without a big that can stop Giannis?
Giannis,
Yeah, you know, like Luka can only do so much. He probably dropped 50 of that 68 points they put up. Like,
Wow, I didn't
But
know
it is
this.
interesting to not have him up.
yeah,
Yeah, that's huge, especially because they were literally in the bronze medal game.
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year.
they were, yeah.
yeah. Interesting.
I don't see a way where USA don't win gold.
Yeah.
I think I feel like they will lose. I don't know. They're still. I still don't think they're built very well to go up against the FIBA competition.
Yeah, but now they've got these guys know how to play.
Yeah. Anyway, that's for next week.
Yeah,
That's what next week we'll see more.
Definitely be
We'll
talking
talk
about the
that
Olympics
next week.
soon.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, follow us on all our pages.
And share. Don't forget to share.
Yeah.
You know, to David and Daniel and Janelle and Kavan.
Yeah. Till next time.
Thank you.